Most people assume EV batteries are worn out by 200,000 miles. The real data says something completely different, and it's going to change how you think about electric vehicles forever. Number 1. Why 200k miles is a huge milestone. Let's put 200,000 miles in context first. For a gasoline-powered vehicle, this mileage is essentially the finish line. Most ICE cars get scrapped somewhere between 150,000 and 200,000 miles. Engines wear out, transmissions fail, and the cost of keeping the car running starts to outpace its value. It's considered end of life for most vehicles on the road. So when we talk about EV batteries at 200,000 miles, we're not talking about middle age. We're talking about the point where most cars are already gone. The fact that we now have enough high-mileage EVs on the road to pull meaningful data from itself is significant. It means the first generation of mainstream electric vehicles has already lasted long enough to reach a milestone that kills most gas cars. And we can finally see what the battery looks like when it gets there. For years, the only answer to how long does an EV battery last was a prediction. Now, for the first time, we have actual answers. Number 2, what battery health means at high mileage. Before we get into the numbers, you need to understand one term, state of health, or SOH. SOH is the percentage of a battery's original capacity that's still available. A new battery is 100%. As it ages, that number drops, slowly in most cases, and the car's real-world age drops with it. Here's how to think about the scale. At 90% SOH, the range loss is small. A car originally rated for 300 miles now does around 270. Most drivers wouldn't even notice unless they were paying close attention. At 80% SOH, the loss is more noticeable. That same 300-mile car is now doing 240 miles, but still perfectly usable for daily driving in most situations. At 70% SOH, most manufacturers consider this the threshold where a battery replacement becomes warranted. That's why the standard EV battery warranty guarantees at least 70% capacity retention over the coverage period. Drop below that line within the warranty period and the manufacturer replaces the pack at no cost to the owner. It's also worth understanding how SOH degrades over time, because it's not a straight line. Battery aging follows what researchers describe as an S-curve. There's a fast drop at the very beginning, a long and gradual middle section, and eventually a steeper decline near the end of the battery's usable life. Most owners only experience the middle section, the long, slow plateau where degradation is almost imperceptible from one year to the next. That shape matters enormously when you're trying to understand what 200,000 miles actually means for a battery. The question is, where do real-world batteries actually land after 200,000 miles? Closer to 70% or closer to 90%? The data answers that directly. Number 3, real data from Tesla vehicles. Tesla has the largest dataset of high-mileage EVs in existence. They've been collecting real-world battery performance data from their fleet for over a decade, and their 2023 impact report puts some of the clearest numbers we've seen on paper. Here's what the data shows. Model 3 and Model Y batteries lose about 15% of their capacity after 200,000 miles. Model S and Model X batteries lose about 12%. Flip those numbers around. After 200,000 miles, a distance that sends most gas cars to the junkyard, Tesla batteries are sitting between 85% and 88% of their original capacity. That's not a marginal result. That's a battery that still has the majority of its original range, still charges normally, and still functions exactly as designed. The degradation is real, but it's gradual, and it stays well above the replacement threshold. The degradation curve itself is also important to understand. It's not a straight line down. Third-party data from thousands of Tesla owners shows an initial drop of roughly 3% to 5% in the first 20,000 miles, a settling in period as the battery chemistry stabilizes. After that, the curve flattens dramatically. The steepest part of the decline happens early and then levels off into a long, slow plateau that extends well past 200,000 miles. Number 4, large EV study results. Tesla isn't the only story here. A study by the Australian battery diagnostics company, Avilo, analyzed data from over 70,000 electric vehicles, including cars that covered more than 300,000 kilometers, which puts them closer to or past the 200,000 mile mark. The findings aligned with what Tesla's own data showed. At 100,000 kilometers, roughly 62,000 miles, the average SOH across the fleet was around 90%. And then, critically, the trend line nearly flattened. Between 200,000 and 300,000 kilometers, the degradation curve became almost horizontal, sitting consistently above the 70% to 80% warranty threshold. In fact, the average landed closer to 87%. Recurrent, a research firm that tracks data from over 30,000 EV drivers, reported a similar picture. Among EVs with 150,000 miles or more, cars that had never had a battery replacement, at least 83% of their original range was still intact. Cox Automotive, which has evaluated nearly 80,000 used EVs through their auctions, found an average battery health of 92% across the fleet. That's 3 independent data sources, thousands of vehicles each, all pointing in the same direction. EV batteries at high mileage are holding up far better than early predictions suggested. Number 5. Why batteries degrade slower than expected? The data is clear, but why are these batteries performing so much better than early estimates predicted? 3 things explain most of it. First, liquid thermal management systems. The battery's biggest enemy is heat. Modern EVs use active liquid cooling circuits to keep the battery pack within its optimal temperature range, typically between 50 and 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Regardless of whether you're charging, driving, or sitting in a hot parking lot, the earliest EVs, like the first-generation Nissan Leaf, used passive air cooling. Those batteries degraded much faster. The shift to liquid cooling was the single biggest improvement in battery longevity. Second, battery management software. The BMS, battery management system, is the brains controlling every charge and discharge cycle. It prevents the battery from hitting the true top and bottom of its capacity, protecting the cells from the voltage extremes that cause the most damage. It also monitors temperature, adjusts charging rates, and adapts its behavior based on real conditions. When your dashboard says 100%, that's not actually 100% of the physical capacity. And when it reads 0%, there's still reserve energy that the BMS is protecting from access. That buffer, invisible to the driver, is quietly doing enormous work to extend the pack's life over hundreds of thousands of miles. This software has gotten significantly more sophisticated over time, and manufacturers continue to refine it through over-the-air updates even after the car leaves the dealership. Third, real-world use is simply gentler than lab testing. Stanford University research published in Nature Energy found that natural laboratory battery tests are far more stressful than actual driving conditions. In labs, batteries get cycled hard from high charge to low charge repeatedly. Real-world driving, accelerating, decelerating, brief stops, moderate speeds, is a much easier environment for the chemistry. Under real-world conditions, batteries lasted around 38% longer than lab tests predicted. That gap between laboratory pessimism and real-world performance is a big part of why early estimates were so wrong. Before we continue, if this kind of data-driven EV content is useful to you, hit subscribe. There's more coming. Number 6. Real-world high-mileage examples. The numbers are one thing, real cars are another. Norman Hager has owned a 2012 Tesla Model S, one of the first ever built, since 2013. After around 200,000 miles on the car, the battery still retains approximately 83% of its original capacity. The car originally offered 265 miles of range. Now it delivers around 220. He calls the degradation pretty minor, and his son uses it as a daily driver. Beyond individual examples, some Tesla vehicles have crossed 300,000 miles and are still operational with healthy battery reports. Fleet operators running EVs commercially have reported battery packs remaining functional and within acceptable range well past the mileage points where equivalent gas vehicles would have retired. Recurrent's current projections based on degradation curves they're tracking suggest many modern EV packs will remain functional for 300,000 to 500,000 miles before range loss becomes a serious problem. That's not marketing language. That's the exploration of real data from real vehicles already on the road. What actually wears off first? Here's the part of the story that surprises most people. In many high-mileage EVs, the battery is not the component that fails first. Electric motors have very few moving parts and are extraordinarily durable. Regenerative braking reduces wear on the brake pads and rotors significantly. EV owners often go twice as long between brake services as gas car drivers. There's no engine oil, no transmission fluid, no timing belt, no spark plugs. What actually wears out in high-mileage EVs? Suspension components, tires which wear faster on EVs due to the added weight, interior electronics, screens, sensors, switches, weather stripping, door seals, seats. The mechanical and electrical systems around the battery tend to age out before the battery itself becomes the limiting factor. P3 Group's analysis of over 7,000 EVs noted that individual failures, when they do occur, are most commonly caused by manufacturing defects, and those are covered under warranty. Degradation-related failures at normal mileage are rare. The practical implication is significant. If you own an EV and you're worried about the battery being the weak link in a long ownership experience, the data says it probably won't be. The rest of the car may ask for attention well before the battery does. Number 8. What this means for EV owners. Let's bring it back to what actually matters. The biggest fear surrounding EVs has always been battery lifespan. The worry that this expensive component would quietly fail, leaving owners with a repair bill that totaled more than the car's remaining value. That fear shaped purchasing decisions, drove down EV prices, and kept a lot of people on the fence. The data we now have doesn't eliminate that concern entirely. Batteries do degrade, replacement costs are real, and individual cases will always vary, but it does fundamentally change the picture. Degradation at 200,000 miles averages 12% to 15% for the best studied vehicles. Most batteries stay above 80% capacity well into very high mileage. The degradation curve flattens after the first 20,000 to 30,000 miles and stays flat for a long time. Battery replacement rates for newer generation EVs are under 1%, and the battery in many cases will outlast every other major system in the vehicle. Recurrent's director of market insights put it plainly: EV batteries are holding up phenomenally well. If you're an EV owner, the message is straightforward. Drive it. The battery can handle it. Keep your daily charge between 20 and 80%, use DC fast charge when you need it rather than as your default, and park in shade or a garage when temperatures are extreme. Those habits will keep the battery on the healthy end of range. But even without obsessing over it, the data shows these packs are built to last. The fear around EV battery lifespan was never entirely irrational. It was based on early predictions, early technology, and genuine uncertainty. But the uncertainty is gone now. We have the data, and the data says these batteries were built better than almost anyone outside the engineering teams expected. Drop a comment below. Were you surprised by these numbers, or did you already suspect the batteries were holding up better than the headline suggested? If this was useful, subscribe. More real-world EV data is coming. No fluff, just what the numbers actually say.